before the electric guitar controversy, before stadium tours and Nobel Prizes, there was a young Bob Dylan, leather jacket on, straddling a British motorcycle that would change his life forever. These are 20 weird facts about Bob Dylan's Triumph T100 that will completely change how you see that machine. Number 20, it symbolized his break from folk purity before the music did.
Okay, let's start this 1952 Triumph T100.
When Bob Dylan purchased his Triumph T100 in the mid-1960s, he was already shifting creatively. The motorcycle was not just transportation, it was attitude. At the time, Dylan was still closely associated with the acoustic folk revival, protest songs, harmonicas, and stripped-down authenticity. But the Triumph T100 carried a different energy. British, fast, stylish, mechanical. It didn't whisper tradition, it suggested rebellion. The T100 was powered by a 500 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine that delivered lively acceleration and a sharper tone than heavier American cruisers. It looked sleek compared to the boxier machines many Americans were used to. It had presence without bulk. In many ways, it mirrored Dylan's own artistic transformation. Lean, unpredictable, and resistant to expectation. There's something poetic about the timing. Before he famously went electric at Newport, he was already riding a machine that symbolized motion and departure. The Triumph was not rooted in rural Americana. It carried British rock undertones, the same cultural wave bringing the Beatles and the Rolling Stones across the Atlantic. The image of Dylan on a Triumph T100 clashes deliberately with the image of a traditional folk purist. And that contrast mattered, even if subconsciously the motorcycle hinted that he was not going to stay confined within one genre. He didn't just plug in a Fender Stratocaster and shock audiences. He had already chosen a motorcycle that suggested speed, independence, and refusal to stand still. Number 19, the crash that changed everything happened on that bike.
There's no place I'm going to. Hey.
Then it all went a bit horribly wrong for me at the veranda.
In 1966, Bob Dylan was involved in a mysterious motorcycle accident near Woodstock, New York, while riding his Triumph T100. The incident became one of the most debated and mythologized events in rock history. Official details were sparse. There were no widely circulated hospital records, no dramatic public statements, just reports that he had broken vertebrae and needed extended recovery. The weird part? Some historians still question the severity of the crash. Was it catastrophic? Was it moderate? Was it exaggerated to allow him to retreat from relentless touring and public pressure? What is undeniable is this: after that accident, Dylan largely withdrew from the chaotic, exhausting tour cycle that had defined his mid-1960s life. He stepped away from the spotlight. The Triumph T100 became permanently linked to that turning point. The motorcycle accident marked the end of his explosive, confrontational electric phase and the beginning of a quieter, more reflective chapter. Albums that followed carried a different tone, less aggression, more introspection. Whether the crash was physically devastating or strategically convenient remains debated, but symbolically, it functioned as a reset. The Triumph was not just the machine involved in an accident, it became part of the mythology of reinvention. Few motorcycles can claim to have altered music history. The T100 arguably did. Number 18, the T100 was a Rockstar favorite before Dylan.
2009 Bonneville P100, and
by the time Dylan purchased his Triumph T100, the model already carried cultural weight. British motorcycles were surging in popularity among musicians and actors. They were lighter and more stylish than many domestic American options. The T100 in particular struck a balance between performance and elegance. With its parallel twin engine and crisp exhaust note, it offered enough power to feel thrilling without being overwhelming. It looked modern, yet refined. For artists navigating rapidly shifting cultural landscapes, that aesthetic mattered. British bikes also carried association with the cafe racer scene, stripped-down machines built for speed between city cafes. That subculture emphasized individuality, style, and performance. It rejected complacency. Sound familiar? Dylan riding a T100 placed him within that broader transatlantic youth movement. It aligned him visually with a generation questioning authority and rejecting rigid tradition. The motorcycle's lean tank, chrome accents, and narrow profile photographed beautifully. It looked right beneath someone reshaping American music. This wasn't an oversized cruiser built for highway swagger. It was agile, sharp, contemporary. The T100 wasn't chosen randomly. It fit the era's cultural pulse, and Dylan, knowingly or not, tapped directly into the energy. Number 17, its vibration matched the chaos of his touring years.
I didn't get off to the best of starts, really. Sort of in the first.
British parallel twins were known for their vibration. The Triumph T100 was no exception. At certain engine speeds, the handlebars hummed, the foot pegs buzzed. The machine pulsed with mechanical intensity. There's something strangely fitting about that. During the mid-1960s, Dylan's life was vibrating just as intensely. Booed at concerts, pressured by managers, hounded by journalists. The energy around him was relentless. The T100 did not offer the insulated smoothness of later motorcycles. It communicated raw mechanical sensation. You felt the engine firing beneath you. You sensed combustion through the frame. It was immersive, sometimes uncomfortable, but undeniably alive. That character likely appealed to someone who thrived on intensity. The bike did not isolate him from sensation, it amplified it. At cruising speeds, the vibration settled into rhythm, but push it harder, and the mechanical personality intensified. That duality, calm at steady pace, chaotic under pressure, mirrors Dylan's own trajectory during that era. The T100 was not a silent, detached experience. It demanded engagement, just like the stage did. Number 16. It was not the fastest bike he could have bought, and that matters. The Triumph T100 was quick for its size, but it was not the most powerful motorcycle available in the mid-1960s. Larger displacement machines existed. Faster bikes existed. Dylan did not choose the biggest engine on the market. That choice is revealing. The T100 delivered balanced performance, around 500 cubic centimeters, responsive throttle, manageable weight. It encouraged spirited riding without becoming intimidating. Dylan was never about brute force. He did not win audiences over by volume alone. He relied on lyric precision, timing, and emotional nuance. The T100 mirrored that dynamic. It was lively rather than overwhelming, capable rather than excessive. In many ways, it embodied a creative middle ground, powerful enough to disrupt expectations, controlled enough to remain intentional. The bike's proportions also suited everyday riding. It was practical for winding country roads around Woodstock, not just high-speed blasts. That practicality is easy to overlook. The motorcycle was part of his daily life, not just an image accessory. Sometimes the most meaningful choices are not about maximum output. They are about balance. And the Triumph T100 was balance on two wheels. Number 15. It connected him to the British invasion without a guitar in his hands. By the mid-1960s, the British invasion had reshaped American music. Bands from across the Atlantic were redefining sound, fashion, and attitude. Bob Dylan stood at the center of a creative hurricane during that time, influencing and being influenced by artists like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Riding a Triumph T100 subtly placed him inside that transatlantic current, even when he was nowhere near a stage. The motorcycle was distinctly British. Its engineering, styling, and cafe racer heritage carried the same cultural DNA as the musicians who were electrifying American audiences. There is something symbolically sharp about Dylan navigating American backroads on a machine born from British industrial tradition, while his own music was shifting toward electric instrumentation and poetic abstraction. The bike became a quiet visual echo of the musical exchange happening between continents. He was no longer solely the American folk troubadour. He was part of a global movement. The Triumph did not scream that message. It simply existed beneath him, reinforcing it silently. Machines often carry identity beyond their mechanical function. In this case, the T100 connected Dylan visually and culturally to the same British surge reshaping the charts. Without playing a single chord, the motorcycle placed him within that narrative of cross-pollination, rebellion, and reinvention. It was a two-wheeled passport during a period when boundaries between scenes were dissolving rapidly. Number 14, the accident deepened the mystery around him more than it revealed truth. The 1966 crash on the Triumph T100 did not just pause Dylan's touring schedule, it expanded the mythology around him. Details were sparse, reports were inconsistent. There were no dramatic press conferences or detailed hospital bulletins. That vacuum of information allowed speculation to flourish. Some believed he was severely injured. Others suggested the accident provided a convenient escape from relentless touring pressure. What makes this fascinating is how the motorcycle itself became part of the narrative ambiguity. The Triumph was no longer just transportation. It became a pivot point in rock history. The absence of clear facts intensified the legend. When artists vanish suddenly, audiences fill in the blanks. The T100 became almost symbolic of that disappearance, a machine tied to retreat and recalibration. After the crash, Dylan's output changed tone. The frenetic pace slowed. The confrontational edge softened. Whether the physical injuries were catastrophic or manageable, the psychological shift was undeniable. The motorcycle accident marked a dividing line between two eras of his career. And because the story remains partially obscured, it retains mystique. The Triumph sits at the center of that haze. It represents both impact and escape, injury and renewal. In a career built on layered meaning and deliberate ambiguity, even the crash story reflects Dylan's complex relationship with public perception. Number 13, it demanded mechanical attention during an already chaotic life.
That's where the sight glass is. To the right of the
Owning a British motorcycle in the mid-1960s required commitment. The Triumph T100 was admired for performance and style, but it was not maintenance-free. Carburetors needed synchronization, chains required adjustment, oil leaks were not uncommon, electrical gremlins occasionally appeared. For an artist juggling relentless tours, studio sessions, and media scrutiny, choosing such a machine meant accepting added responsibility. That contrast is intriguing. While his public life was accelerating, the motorcycle demanded hands-on patience. Riding a T100 meant listening for changes in engine tone, feeling subtle shifts in vibration, and responding before small issues became larger ones. It was not a machine you ignored, you participated in its upkeep. There is an almost meditative aspect to that relationship. In a world where Dylan was being pulled in every direction, the motorcycle required focused mechanical interaction. Tightening a chain or adjusting a cable becomes grounding, tangible, immediate. The bike did not care about chart positions or audience reactions. It required practical attention. That mechanical loyalty may have provided a strange counterbalance to the abstraction of songwriting and fame. The Triumph did not operate on metaphor. It ran on fuel, spark, and compression. That honesty likely held appeal. In the midst of cultural turbulence, the motorcycle offered something concrete: cause and effect, action and response. Number 12. Its sound cut differently than American motorcycles. The Triumph T100's parallel twin engine produced a distinct exhaust note. It was sharper and tighter than the deep rumble of large American V-twins. Where American cruisers boomed, the Triumph barked. Its cadence was quicker, more urgent. That auditory signature mattered in the cultural landscape at the time. Sound shapes perception. The British twins' tone felt aligned with the rising edge of electric rock music. It did not roll lazily. It snapped to attention. When Dylan revved the throttle, the response would have been crisp rather than thunderous. There is something fitting, about that tonal character. His music during the electric transition was not heavy and slow. It was sharp, lyrical, and rhythmically restless. The motorcycle's voice echoed that shift. It sounded modern, alive. In urban environments, the Triumph's exhaust would have cut through traffic differently than a booming cruiser. It announced presence without overwhelming. That subtlety mirrors Dylan's songwriting style, which often conveyed impact through phrasing rather than sheer volume. The T100 did not dominate through displacement. It expressed itself through character, and that character aligned neatly with an artist redefining his own sonic identity. Machines, like music, have timbre. The Triumph's timbre complemented a moment when sound itself was being reinvented. Number 11, it became part of the Woodstock landscape before Woodstock was famous. Long before Woodstock became shorthand for a cultural revolution, Bob Dylan was living near the small town in upstate New York. The Triumph T100 moved through that rural landscape quietly, long before massive festivals and historical retrospectives defined it. The image of Dylan riding winding country roads on a British twin adds texture to the chapter of his life. The area was not yet a symbol, it was simply home. The motorcycle fit naturally into that environment. Narrow roads, rolling hills, wooded stretches. The T100 was agile and responsive enough to navigate them fluidly. There is a cinematic quality to that image, a songwriter in retreat, carving through quiet roads on a machine that vibrated with mechanical rhythm. That pre-festival Woodstock period was transitional, introspective, and grounded. The Triumph became part of that physical setting. It carried him between home, studio, and reflection. When Woodstock later exploded into global symbolism, the quieter years preceding it gained mythic weight. The motorcycle sits within that prelude. It was there before the headlines, before the mud and amplifiers, before history attached meaning to geography. In that sense, the T100 was not just part of his story, it was part of a place that would soon become legendary. Number 10, it represented motion at a time when he needed escape. By the mid-1960s, Bob Dylan's life had become claustrophobic. Endless touring schedules, hostile audiences during his electric transition, relentless press scrutiny, and the weight of cultural expectation pressed in from all directions. The Triumph T100 offered something deceptively simple: motion. Not metaphorical motion, literal escape. A motorcycle does not isolate you behind glass. It exposes you to air, sound, and landscape. When Dylan rode through the winding roads of upstate New York, he was not surrounded by managers or microphones. He was alone with engine vibration and the rhythm of shifting gears. That kind of solitude matters. The T100's 500 cubic centimeter engine delivered lively acceleration without overwhelming force. It allowed quick departures. Twist the throttle and you were gone. There is psychological power in that immediacy. The motorcycle became a tool for clearing mental noise. Riding demands attention. You must monitor road surface, throttle response, braking distance. There is little room for distraction. In a career defined by lyrical complexity and public interpretation, the simplicity of riding may have offered rare clarity. The Triumph did not ask him about meaning. It did not critique his sound. It simply moved forward when commanded. That forward motion mirrored the internal need to keep evolving. Even before the accident reshaped his pace, the motorcycle symbolized agency. When the world felt overwhelming, the T100 offered direction, not answers, just open road. Number 9. It contrasted sharply with American cruiser culture of the era.
And as you can see, we've got fuel injection just there.
During the 1960s, American motorcycle culture was increasingly associated with large displacement VI twins and outlaw imagery. Heavy frames, booming exhaust notes, and long, low silhouettes dominated domestic perception. The Triumph T100 was something entirely different. Slimmer, lighter, sharper in profile. Its British engineering emphasized balance and agility over brute torque. Dylan choosing that machine placed him outside the dominant American cruiser narrative. He did not align himself with the emerging rebel biker stereotype. Instead, he rode a motorcycle connected to cafe racer sensibilities and European performance heritage. That distinction matters culturally. The T100 carried a more refined aesthetic. Its teardrop tank and twin-cylinder engine projected controlled energy rather than intimidation. It suggested speed through responsiveness, not mass. In a period where identity was visually coded through machines, Dylan's choice subtly communicated independence from mainstream American motorcycling trends. He was not following a domestic template. He was charting a parallel path, much like his music did. The Triumph's narrower stance and tighter proportions mirrored his lyrical sharpness. It was not about dominating space, it was about cutting through it. That visual and mechanical contrast amplified his persona as someone willing to diverge from expectations. Even in transportation, he chose the road less traveled. Number 8. It demanded respect from the rider. The Triumph T100 was not a forgiving machine for careless operation. Its drum brakes required anticipation. Its 4-speed gearbox rewarded precise timing. Its carbureted engine responded differently depending on temperature and tuning. Riding it well required attention. That mechanical character aligns intriguingly with Dylan's artistic trajectory. He was not a passive performer delivering predictable melodies. He challenged audiences. He expected engagement. The T100 demanded something similar from its rider. You could not approach it lazily. Starting it involved choke adjustments and careful kickstarting. Hard acceleration required clean shifts. Panic braking punished hesitation. The machine functioned best when approached with respect. That mutual demand for attentiveness created a partnership rather than a convenience. There is philosophical symmetry in that dynamic. Dylan's music during that era refused to spoon-feed meaning. It required listeners to lean in. The Triumph refused to operate flawlessly without rider awareness. Both relationships were interactive. In an increasingly automated world, the T100 retained mechanical honesty. It did not hide its limitations. It communicated them. And in return, it rewarded skill. That dialogue between rider and machine echoes the dialogue between artist and audience. Engagement was not optional. It was essential. Number 7. It blurred the line between solitude and myth. Images of Bob Dylan on his Triumph T100 have a quiet cinematic quality. A lone figure on a British twin against rural backdrops. That image feels intimate, personal. Yet, it has become mythic over time. The motorcycle sits at the intersection of privacy and legend. When those rides occurred, they were likely ordinary moments, moving between home and studio, clearing thoughts, navigating winding roads. But history transformed them. The accident elevated the bike into cultural narrative. The photographs froze it in time. What was once simple solitude became symbolic retreat. The T100 did not know it was becoming part of rock history. It simply functioned as a machine. That transformation from mundane reality to layered mythology is fascinating. The motorcycle represents a private chapter, later interpreted publicly. It is both vehicle and metaphor. The solitude of those rides contrasts sharply with the roaring stages he left behind. The Triumph becomes a visual shorthand for introspection. Even decades later, when people reference that period, the image of Dylan on the British twin surfaces almost automatically. The machine anchors memory. It bridges the gap between the man navigating personal transitions and the icon etched into cultural consciousness. Few motorcycles occupy that space between everyday object and mythic artifact so seamlessly. Number 6. It remains a collector's whisper rather than a commercial icon.
Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man.
Unlike certain celebrity motorcycles that become aggressively marketed replicas, Bob Dylan's Triumph T100 has retained a quieter mystique. Triumph did not build a widely promoted Dylan edition. There were no mass-produced commemorative models plastered with his name. Instead, The connection lives in photographs, biographies, and collector conversations. That restraint aligns curiously with Dylan's own relationship to fame. He has historically resisted overt commodification of his image. The T100's legacy operates similarly. Within motorcycle circles, enthusiasts recognize the model's significance. They understand that one of the most influential songwriters of the 20th century rode one during a pivotal era. But the story circulates more as lore than marketing campaign. That understated status adds authenticity. The motorcycle remains primarily appreciated for its engineering and period charm. Its association with Dylan enhances its aura rather than redefining it. This subtlety prevents the connection from feeling manufactured. It feels organic, like a chapter discovered rather than advertised. In an industry where celebrity associations are often leveraged aggressively, the Triumph T100 tied to Dylan exists almost as a whisper among enthusiasts. And sometimes, whispers carry more power than slogans. Number 5. It forced him to slow down before the world did.
Anger mining, I come following you.
The Triumph T100 was not a high-speed interstate devourer. It was built for engagement, not relentless velocity. Its 500 cubic centimeter engine delivered spirited performance, but it was happiest on winding back roads rather than flat-out highway blasts. That characteristic matters when placed alongside Bob Dylan's career trajectory. During the mid-1960s, everything around him was accelerating. Album releases, interviews, tours, criticism, cultural impact. The pace was unsustainable. The T100, by contrast, naturally encouraged moderation. Drum breaks required anticipation. The 4-speed gearbox favored deliberate timing. Sustained high-speed riding introduced vibration that reminded you not to push endlessly. The motorcycle demanded rhythm, not frenzy. That mechanical pacing may have acted as a subconscious counterbalance to the chaos of fame. Riding it through the rural roads near Woodstock would have required reading curbs carefully, easing off the throttle, leaning smoothly rather than charging blindly forward. In that sense, the Triumph did not just transport him physically, it imposed tempo. After the accident, when his career shifted into a quieter phase, the symbolism deepened. The motorcycle had already been a machine that discouraged recklessness. It rewarded awareness. It required attention. Long before public retreat became a narrative, the T100 embodied the idea that speed without control leads to consequence. That philosophical alignment feels less like coincidence and more like inevitability when viewed in hindsight. Number 4. It carried British racing DNA into American folk territory. The Triumph T100 nameplate carried heritage. T100 originally referenced Triumph's success in achieving 100 miles per hour during performance demonstrations decades earlier. While Dylan's road use was far from racing, the model's lineage included competition credibility. British twins were respected in racing circles for their power to weight balance and handling characteristics. That heritage sat beneath him even as he navigated quiet American roads. There is something compelling about that intersection. Dylan, rooted in American folk traditions, rode a machine born from British performance engineering. The motorcycle carried racing DNA, yet it functioned as a personal commuter. That duality mirrors his own artistic tension between tradition and innovation. The T100 was not just a stylish accessory. It descended from a brand that valued speed and mechanical excellence. Even at moderate throttle, that lineage remained embedded in its engine cases and frame geometry. The idea that a machine with competitive ancestry became part of a songwriter's rural routine creates an intriguing contrast. It reinforces how layered objects can be. Beneath the chrome and fuel tank was a legacy of velocity. Beneath Dylan's quiet retreat was an artist who had shaken global music. The Triumph embodied restrained capability, power present but not constantly unleashed. That balance made it fitting. It suggested potential without spectacle. Number 3, it amplified the mystique of his disappearance. When Bob Dylan retreated from the public eye after the 1966 accident, speculation multiplied. Fans debated whether the crash had been catastrophic or convenient. Journalists searched for details. The Triumph T100 became central to that story. The motorcycle was tangible. The injuries were debated. The silence was real. That combination created mythology. Unlike stage publicity stunts, this event lacked clarity. The machine's involvement added visual weight to the narrative. A motorcycle crash carries inherent drama. Even without graphic detail, it implies danger and impact. The T100 became an anchor for the idea that something decisive had occurred. Whether the injuries were severe or manageable, the withdrawal reshaped his career arc. The motorcycle sits permanently at that crossroads. It represents both rupture and renewal. The ambiguity around the event deepens the legend. If the accident had been minor and thoroughly documented, its narrative power might have faded. Instead, the incomplete record allowed imagination to fill gaps. The Triumph, parked in memory at that rural roadside, symbolizes the boundary between two eras. It marks the end of relentless touring and the beginning of controlled output. Few motorcycles become entwined so tightly with artistic transformation. This one did. Number 2, it visually contradicted the protest singer's stereotype.
Snowflake storm.
During the early 1960s, Dylan was widely perceived as a protest folk artist, acoustic guitar, harmonica holder, minimalist stage presence. That image was powerful, but limiting. The Triumph T100 disrupted it visually. A British motorcycle conveyed modernity, motion, and edge. It suggested independence from genre confinement. Seeing Dylan astride a sleek twin-cylinder machine complicated the narrative. He was not frozen in a single identity. The motorcycle aligned him more closely with rock and youth culture than with coffeehouse purism. That visual shift paralleled his electric transformation. Even before the famous Newport controversy, the Triumph hinted that he would not remain static. Machines communicate identity subconsciously. A motorcycle carries associations of freedom and rebellion. The T100, lighter and sharper than American cruisers, projected contemporary energy. It looked forward rather than backward. That contrast with the protest singer's stereotype reinforced his refusal to be boxed in. He did not need to explain the shift. The image spoke. The motorcycle became part of a broader aesthetic pivot from folk purity toward hybrid experimentation. It helped redraw the silhouette of Bob Dylan in the cultural imagination. Number 1, it became legendary precisely because it was ordinary. The Triumph T100 was not a rare prototype. It was not custom-built exclusively for Bob Dylan. It was a production motorcycle available to everyday riders, and that ordinariness is what gives it enduring power. Dylan did not surround himself with unattainable machines. He chose a well-engineered, mid-sized British twin and integrated it into daily life. The legend emerged afterward. The motorcycle did not create the mythology, it absorbed it. In retrospect, the T100 represents a grounded chapter before the layers of fame thickened. It was transportation between home and studio, not a stage prop. That authenticity makes the story resonate. Fans can imagine owning the same model. They can picture themselves on similar roads. The connection feels human rather than distant. The motorcycle's cultural weight grew because of timing, not exclusivity. It existed at a turning point. It witnessed transformation. That is often how ordinary objects become extraordinary. They stand quietly beside pivotal moments. The Triumph T100 did exactly that. It remains significant not because it was engineered for spectacle, but because it was present when history shifted. Bob Dylan's Triumph T100 was never meant to be legendary. It was simply a motorcycle, ridden through uncertain roads during uncertain years. Yet it became part of a turning point in music history. Sometimes the machines beside us quietly witness transformation, and that is enough to make them unforgettable.